Okie dokie. It's 6 o'clock. Good afternoon. Good evening. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the live. This is Maggie. I am so happy to be here with you this afternoon, this evening. And of course, it is Holy Saturday for those of you who celebrate a very somber time. So I'm going to wish you a happy Easter. As I said, I feel like I want to be consistent. So I promise I'm going to come on live. I'm going to plan on 30 minutes to an hour. If anybody shows up, great. If not, I think eventually people are going to get used to the idea. You can join on both YouTube. I'm watching myself on YouTube and on Facebook. So this is great. I don't know how I did that, but I did. So I am happy about that. Welcome to Nurse Training and Advocacy, which is the name of our channel, the name of this platform that I am creating in an attempt to provide some training to aspiring new nursing supervisors, managers. I know a lot of people who have joined the Facebook group. The questions that I ask is, why do you want to join this group? A lot of them said to get more information, to get better educated. Well, you've come to the right place. If this is your first time being here on the live, I welcome you and I'm asking you to like the video, share it with your friends. You know, you can't ever have too much information, especially in today's environment that we are living in, right? Lots of challenges, a lot of things that we could worry about. And it's there's a lot going on. So I thank you for joining, and I'm not going to really spend a lot of time. I'm going to go straight into the chat. The name of the channel is Nurse Training and Advocacy. My goal is to share everything that I have that I feel had made me successful in my career. And my career has had all kinds of twists and turns. Um, I started out in med surg, like most nurses. And hi, Lynn, nice to have you. Um, and then I was like 1980s. And then after med surg, which I highly recommend, and I know there's a lot of debate about whether you should start your career in med surg. For me, it has been really life saving. I felt like when I was on that floor, on that unit, I really got my feet wet, and there was a host of different diagnoses, conditions that we treated. And to me, that was very helpful. Then I moved into critical care. I went into cardiology, which is what I love. I love cardiology. And I ended up becoming certified as a CCRN, critical care registered nurse, and loved it. Worked there with a great team of nurses. And then in the 80s and the 90s, we started with all these mergers and acquisitions. Those of you who are old enough to remember that. And we had like a bunch of specialty program. No, actually, after I left the CCU, I went into home health and I did that. I enjoyed it because I had a young family at that time, and that was the best thing for me. Then I became a supervisor in home care, and then I became a cardiac program manager. My boss at that time was a dream boss. She gave me the opportunity to develop a cardiac specialty program for home care. So she said, okay, you got your ideas. I sold it to her. She was on board and she said, go do it. So I remember being in a little room with no windows, just with my thoughts and ideas. That would never happen nowadays. And I was like, I developed the vision statement, the mission statement, the goals. And my goal at that time was to focus on cardiac patients in the home setting to reduce hospitalization and morbidity and mortality. And we did. So I created policy and procedures, training manuals, marketing materials. Then we had to go and sell it to our physicians. And I did all the marketing, went into the offices, talked to the case managers and discharge planners, and I had a blast, right? At that time, I also had an opportunity to go to Chile and kind of work with some of the nurses there. And then there was a program in upstate New York in Rochester. I went and mentored. Well, I got mentored by some of the nurses. It was a VNA that was doing it. I'm telling you, those were the most important, productive times of my nursing career. And that's why when I see that nurses nowadays do not have the support of their management to blossom, to create, it pains me. So that's why I'm here to kind of try to fill that void, right? Just to kind of inspire you to be what you could be, because I feel like nursing is one of the career paths where you can start and then you can expand and do so much. And I know you all agree. You can go in education, science, computers, I mean, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, after I left home health, I don't want to bore you with all my careers. I did a lot of things. Um, then I became a chef in the middle of that. I went to culinary school, ran a cafe for a couple of years, went back to nursing, was a director of nursing, and then ended up being um, weekend supervisor at two different facilities. So I understand, even though I am focusing this training to skilled nursing facilities, but the principles of supervision can apply to any field in nursing, because supervision means you are tasked with getting things done and you managing a team. And it doesn't matter who the team members are, the principles are the same because you're dealing with people. And the skills that you learn as a nursing supervisor are going to take you far, depending on how much have you learned, how well you've mastered those skills in terms of your people skills, being able to be organized, being able to prioritize, being able to deal with people of different cultures and ethnic groups, and I mean the gamut. That's why I said last time when this nurse said, I don't know how I ended up being a nurse. I don't even like people. And I was like, if you don't like people, you're going to have a hard time, because we deal with all kinds of people. So last week we did the 10 habits. I kind of went over the 10 habits of highly effective nursing supervisors. So this week I am going to finish the next, and in fact, I was doing that before I came on. I want to do the 20 habits, which is what the mini course is going to be about. And I go into more details about that. And I'm going to do it to Kajabi. And then you're going to have a link and you're going to be able to log on and you're going to be able to watch it. And with that course, I'm going to give you not only the self-assessment, which I think I sent to someone last week. I'm going to give you the grid. The grid is what I use when I was supervising. It's kind of different boxes, so you can be organized and you know what it is am I responsible for. You want to match that with your job description, your responsibility, the major responsibility section. You want to be sure that every time you're on, you're hitting those, right? You want to use that grid to also prioritize. Prioritization is very important because you don't want to get caught in the details where you have the most important things that you should address first when you come on, okay? And that's why I feel like to be a nursing supervisor, you have to have an immense capacity to absorb information. And one other trait of when we said, do you have what it takes, is like being responsible. Do you have broad shoulders? Because a lot of things are going to fall on you. And I finished the course by saying the buck stops here. Because, truly, as a supervisor, you can't say, I didn't get time to do it. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't there. Why do you think when something goes haywire in a big organization, who's the first one to take the fall? The CEO. Even though he was not he was not doing the task, but he had responsibility for it. So you can't pass the buck. You can't say, I wasn't there, I told so and so to do it. You got to own it. Okay. So we went through all that. So today I want to go over one particular point that I want to expand on is how do you create a work environment that is positive in today's world, in today's challenging environment with staffing shortages, the disconnect that I call between management and the workers, the lack of respect that is all over the place nowadays in nursing. For years we heard that nursing was the most respected profession in the United States. Well, I'm not sure this is still the case because we get verbally abused, and some nurses even get physically abused. Let me tell you, when I go as a nurse practitioner, I go into a locked unit, and I have my nurses there. People, those patients, granted they're demented, they spit on him, they scratch him, they hit him, they shove him. I mean, there's a lot of physical abuse that we take. And there's this particular nurse, God bless her. I mean, she just, and I'm like, I don't think I'd be so, just happy go lucky. I don't want to say, okay, you go sit over here. She just keeps going and like nothing happened. God bless him. Okay. It takes all of us to make it work. So I don't feel like we are as respected as we used to be, and we should be. That's why I said this challenge, this environment that we are in right now, it is an opportunity. Every time there is a catastrophe in the world, somebody finds a way to capitalize on it. That's why during COVID, now you're hearing that there was so much waste. The government was throwing money at all these organizations. Nobody was watching the ship, and money went out to people who sometimes didn't even exist. Okay. So someone is going to find a way to capitalize on what's happening now. And who's doing it now? Those staffing agencies. They are capitalizing in this. The travelers, people, my God, you'll get those emails. Make $7,000 a week. I'm like, ooh, that kind of blows my mind. I'd be scared. I know NPs who have left their nurse practitioner position because now we have an abundance of NPs. Therefore, a lot of them feel like, why did I go to school to get that degree? Because the pay certainly is not matching with it. Nurses are making a lot more money than we are making, right? Even though we have more responsibility and we're providers now, which means we are more liable for a lot more. But as you all know, things are changing for nurses. Not only are we being disrespected, are we being overworked, are we being shamed into not helping or whatever. This is one of my pet peeves. It's right up here when somebody is working in a facility and they ask for time off, and then they're like, oh, you don't care to help us? There's nobody. And then there's this other nurse, besides the one who was convicted for giving the other medication besides the Versed, there is another case of a nurse who had 39 patients that she had, and then now the patient died, and who takes the fall? Guys, I know I'm kind of close to retiring, but you have got to stand for yourself. I always told the nurses, you're the one with the license to protect. If you go to court, the physician's there and you are there, you are the one who's going to go down. You know why? Because chances are you're a woman, first of all. Another pet peeve, we don't need to go into that. He is the doctor, right? So they're going to be. I had this happen to me. I was in the CCU. A little 91-year-old lady came in and she had been on digoxin. We don't use that drug that much anymore. But you know how when you had atrial fibrillation, that was before Eliquis and all this, she was on 0.25 of dig. I remember this as if it was yesterday because when these things happen to you, you'll never forget them, right? And the lady came with a bradycardia. She was in the 45. I called this physician and I asked the family. They say she'd been on 0.25 since she was 74. Now she's 91 or 92. Certainly, with decreased kidney function, she needs less. I'm like, would you like a dig level? Would you want us to hold it? He's like, no. I don't know what he was thinking. But me being the nurse who was what behind the ears, I kept giving the dig. Next thing you know, the lady's heart rate dropped in the 30s. We had to use an external pacer to pace her, and then they're like, Maggie, I said, I did. I called him. So you can't, when these doctors or whoever asks you to do anything, and you have the slightest inkling that it could be unsafe and not appropriate, you need to question it. You go ask somebody else, what do you think? If you're not comfortable, go to your supervisor. What do you think? That's why your supervisor is supposed to really um, be your go-to person. That's your expert, but she's not an expert in everything. Some things you may have to ask somebody else, but the supervisor's job is going to say, you know what, I'm not sure, let me go nowadays. And I'm like, let's Google it. Let's go to one of those websites. Information is everywhere, but that was before that. So if somebody asks you to give a medication, to do something, they give you an assignment that you feel is unsafe. Guys, please, I implore you, say no. Because the person who's going to take the fall is going to be you. So this nurse who had 39 patients, something happened, now they're going after her. So the tide is changing in terms of nursing being protected and being seen as these, little Florence Nightingale angels with little wings. Mm-mm. And you guys know that nowadays in this country, people are ad lib, right? They feel like they can say whatever they want to your face, not even, in their room. They will come to you and in your face, they will be insulting you. That's another point in the training. How do you manage those people? You don't want to go into a verbal altercation with a visitor. That is not what you do. So you need to learn those skills on how to manage that. That's going to be in the course. Hi, Wild Wid. Hi, Auntie Maggie. Nice to see you. Okay. So what we want to talk about today is, and of course, you're going to be able to watch this on the replay, okay? And I'm watching the time because I don't ever want to go beyond 1 hour. I know it's Saturday, everybody has things to do besides me, but that's fine. So, how to create a positive work environment? You, a nursing supervisor, whether you are experienced or new, one of your major responsibilities, in addition to the staffing, um, handling complaints, which I call concerns, incident reporting, like if somebody is had a fall, how much we love those, and the paperwork, and all the post incident monitoring that goes, all those neuro checks. I know you love those. um, Anybody who's unstable, assessing that person and deciding whether they need to go out. That's another point in your training. How do you decide based on your professional judgment? Does this incident require that this person go out? I will tell you, sometimes you're going to be at odds with management because, if you recall again, I said previously, management goal is to manage your resources. Okay. In today's environment, it's the resources, the budget, the numbers. As much as it pains you as a nurse to understand that, I've owned two businesses. I understand business. The difference for us in nursing is that we have people's lives in our hands with this business. It's not like having a restaurant, even though that could be deadly as well. It's not a store. You're not selling a product that could be deficient. You have people's lives in your hands. So there is a higher layer of responsibility and carefulness that you need to practice, right? So you have to use, that's why you have to stay on top of your game. You have to be on top of your game. You have to know what's going on. I say that in today's environment, you know what? As a nurse practitioner, I can tell you how many times Every single day I go in and I need to prescribe something for a patient. And even though I know up here what to order, but the dosages and the side effect and the interactions, I am always checking on my phone. I have an app and I'm looking to see, let me see, am I within the guidelines? And I'm never rushed to the point where, oh, I don't have to look at that. No, because one mistake, if I give too high a dose, I have to look at the patient. How old is the patient? What is the renal function? How does this medication metabolize? Is it in the liver? Do we have labs? You can't short circuits. You can't take shortcuts. Okay? You have to do that. You have to make sure you take the time. Okay? So, how do we create an environment that is also a major responsibility? Let's face it. If you, I mean, we all hear it. Nurses are burnout. And there's another course I'm going to do about really simple things you can do to prevent burnout. I have an ebook on SAMcard, and my ebook is like my 30 plus year love affair with nursing. I have been a nurse for over 30 years, and I have to tell you truly that I've never been burnout. You know why? Because I know how to take care of myself. I have a huge capacity. I'm a hard worker, but I'm not going to push myself to that point, to that limit where I'm going to crash and burn. No job is worth that. And of course, most of us, we have families, we have kids, we have relationship, and now we may be in the sandwich. We could be the sandwich generation where we have our elderly parents we're dealing with. I mean, the amount of stress that we are on is unbelievable. And unless you learn how to manage that, again, prioritizing what's important, is this getting some rest or cleaning the house? Now, see, when you're a young married wife or whatever, you're like, oh, cleaning the house is nice to have a clean house. When visitors come, they could say, oh, she's such a great housekeeper. And you get to be in your 40s and you're like, eh, not that important. You go, you go and you're like, oh, well, I guess I need to dust a little. That's what happens. Your priorities change, right? But in nursing, as a supervisor, every day you go there, you have to bring your A game. That's the thing. I used to tell some people who work for me when they come and they're on the phone being rude to people. And I remember this girl one time, and I'm like, excuse me, are you okay? She's like, oh, I don't feel good. I have a headache. I said, well, listen, it's better you don't come to work than to come to work with an attitude and talk to my customers that way. I was very big on that. It's important. Okay. So bringing your A game means you have to be in the best shape that you can, physically, mentally. So that's another point in the course. How do you do that? Okay. Make sure you get enough rest. Make sure you get enough sleep. Don't work too many doubles. Don't work too many shifts back to back. You have to take a break. You have to take your time off. Take your vacation. Take the mini vacations. I sound like a broken record. Okay. So this one says we want to begin with the Serenity Prayer. Are you familiar with that prayer? I always mess it up. It's a prayer that says you need to know how to fight your battle, what you can control and what you can't control. Give me the wisdom to know the difference. Give me the strength to change the things I can and to just let go of the things that I can't. All right, let's take this environment that we're in today with nursing. There, there's a lot that we cannot control, right? There's a lot that we can control. That's why I'm trying to help you to understand what are some of the things that you can do. We can't control the current environment, even though as we go along, we can make some small changes. We can't control the nursing shortage. We can't control that you may have a manager who doesn't seem to care. You can't control who they hire, even though you may have some good insight as to who they should hire. But because they are in a bind, they would grab anything that anybody shows up, you have a license, you hired, right? That's not good. But this is what we have right now. You can control the fact that you have your facility staffed with 80, 90% agency. You can control that. They need the bodies to take care of these people, such as it is. So you're gonna have to learn to deal with that in a positive way, so that they can deliver the care and your patients, your resident can be taken care of without getting yourself also frustrated. Your blood pressure is going up, your heart rate is going up. No, no, no. These are things you cannot control. So, how do I come in and give the best that I can using the resources I have available to me without feeling angry and what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want to become bitter about the situation, because it's going to show up in your interactions with whomever, whether it's the patients, the staff, visitors. You got to bring your A game. If you need to go and do some what is it, you exercise, get the endorphins and things going through your brain, and the good hormones. You hydrated, you eating well, so that when you come, you're on your A game. You bring your face, you bring your positive face, your positive energy, your positive environment. And yes, it's exhausting. It can be exhausting. That's why you got to take the breaks. Okay. So begin with the serenity prayer. Realize that this is the situation. How am I going to function effectively within this situation with all the stuff going on? Okay. Remember, I showed you last time in the course. Stay in your lane. Know what your responsibilities are. Don't take on other people's job. They will try to dump it on you. You have to say, "Oh no, I'm sorry. That is not part of my job, and I have a lot going on. I really can't take care of your business." No. That's why, again, as a supervisor, you got to constantly reinforce to your team, it's nothing personal. It's about doing the job. You do your job. I do mine. I always told them, nothing personal. But this is your job. I expect you to do it to the best of your ability. And if you do that, we have no issues. And I'm going to be smiling. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be professional. But I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I don't want to see you slacking off. You want to go outside on your phone for 45 minutes? I'm going to come get you. And if I need to write you up, I can do that too. But I give you a lot of opportunities to improve and to know what I expect. It's just like your kids. I used to have my kids, they would say, "Oh, mom would never do for that." I, they don't have to ask me. They knew where I stand, right? Same thing with your staff. They're going to say, "Oh, Miss Maggie's not going to go for that." Mm-mm. And I told you again, this nurse, she was fussing and blah, blah, blah. She said, "You know what? I respect that. You were firm, but you were fair." That's the best compliment a staff member can give you. Okay? You can't play favorite, but you have to stay consistent. The message cannot change with every situation. So, number two here I have is identify what you can control and what you can't. And I just went over that. The situation, the money, the business environment, you can't change. But what you can change, you will do it. And my point is also number three for me here. It all starts with the heart. You see, nursing is not like any other profession. And I get really emotional when I think about it. Because when I go into a patient's room, a resident's room, and I'm talking to her, I had 101 little lady this week, and I'm talking to her. When I'm talking to people like that, I'm in my element. I feel like I'm sitting with royalty. I mean, she was sitting there, she was all dressed up. I mean, she had a little dementia going on, but she was so cute, and everything she said, I lapped it up. Okay? So your heart has to be in a good place. You have to care for people. You can't become disenchanted, bitter, cynical. Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time for a sabbatical. And a lot of us, as I said, have taken some time away from nursing. And I did that. That's why I wasn't burnout. I was working in CCU, and we had a rash of young people die of massive MIs, and that really rocked me. When I see a 27-year-old construction worker come in, he was just throwing up all over the place. He looked as gray as my purse here. And then anything we did, he had a massive right-sided MI. We couldn't save him. That rocked me. That shook me. I was like, oh my God. And when after a while, I was like, I need to get away. I need to get away. And it's okay to do that. You're preserving yourself, your mental health. That doesn't make you a quitter. It doesn't make you weak. It means that you are in tune with your emotion. I had a girl leave nursing to drive a truck with her husband. That's perfectly fine. That doesn't make her a wannabe, a quitter. No labelings. Okay? But your heart, make sure your heart's in the right place. That's why I feel that nursing schools should do a much better job at screening their candidates. Again, there's a shortage of faculty. I think about it sometime if I want to go teach somewhere, but I think I would enjoy it. What do you think? um, when anybody says they want to be a nurse and all they have to do is sign, bring a check, and you can come on, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice, because for the same thing that I said, not everybody is cut out to be a nurse. Those "do you have what it takes" question, that was different. This is for nursing supervisor. The one for the nursing profession itself would be even more intuitive, would be more into, do you have those personal characteristics? Do you love people? Do you care for people? If you don't, after the 2008 market crash, a lot of men came into nursing because nursing was an easy career. And they knew that if you have a nursing degree, you can go into anything. Maybe it was a stepping stone to PA or to go into medicine or radiology or whatever, and which is fine. But make sure you're going into nursing for the right reason. Because as we see right now, you're going to be challenged. A lot of nurses are quitting nursing. And I don't think it's the nursing itself most of the time. It's probably the management and the environment. But anyway, oh my God, there's so much we can say about that. But make sure your heart's in the right place, okay? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So I am okay listening to my little 101-year-old patient and interacting with her, enjoying her, and doing what I can, holding her hand, giving her a hug, squeezing her shoulder, just sharing that empathy kind of thing. But if you don't have it, you can't give it. You can only give what you have. And if you don't have it, you just constantly trying to give it, trying to give it. You're gonna be exhausted after a while. You're gonna say, "Oh, what the heck?" Your natural person's gonna come out, and it may not be a pretty picture. Okay, it takes time. As a supervisor, you have to understand, if you come into the job, chances are you're going to inherit, a team that is crazy, where they're fighting. The other day, I was reading where two staff members were ready to go to blow. They had to call the police. Oh my God. What an embarrassment. I've never had it that bad. You've had patient to patient incident. Yeah, resident on resident, we've had that. But staff members, because nobody was toning it down and they wanted to go at it. No, you don't need to get to that point. So it takes time for you to come in and say, okay, we're going to change the temperature here. We are going to build a team. Building a team takes time. It takes dedication. It takes intention. Every year I come up with a couple of words to direct my actions, my goals, my plan. And 2022 was intention. Because if you want to do something, chances are you will do it. You will do what it takes to do it. So don't don't believe that it's going to happen just like that. Okay, it's not. Oh my goodness, my phone is going down, so I might have to go plug it in. Um so it takes time, it takes commitment. You have to know your why are you doing this. Excuse me, guys, I have to get my my charger. Sorry. It seems like while I'm talking, it just taking more energy. Okay. No, that's embarrassing. Sorry, guys. Okay. So I have to move it somewhere else. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, it's gonna take time for you to do um to develop the team, to build a team, to teach him. I would say between 6 months to a year for you to start seeing some differences. Okay. So, what are some of the concrete steps that you can take as you build your team and create that positive environment? First of all, you have to ooze all that positive energy. Okay. If you walk in, you don't say, "Hello, how are you?" The smile, my fat cheeks, you're not smiling. It's like, what's good about it? You know how you ask somebody how they're doing and you're like, don't ask her, she'll tell you. You don't want to be that person. Okay. Hopefully you're a positive person. Um, Invest, number one, invest in getting to know your staff. I mean, you don't need to be in their business. You don't need to know their personal stuff, how you connect with people. Because listen, your team, you want to get to know them, you want to be friendly, but you don't necessarily have to be friends with them. Okay. I have had people, director of nursing, going to happy hour with a staff member. You know what I'm saying? How you going to manage that person? How you going to mentor or call them in if they did something that is not up to par, right? So it's a challenge to maintain the boundaries, but you have to maintain the boundaries. And let's say you're friends with someone, that doesn't mean you can't work with your friend. But if you're a supervisor, your friend need to understand that they don't get a pass. They're still held to the same standard. So just because you're my friend doesn't mean that you don't get your work done, that I'm gonna let you slack off. No, because again, the rest of the staff, they're watching to see if you're going to play favorite, and you don't want to do that. Commit to learning one or two things about everybody. So, for example, when I come on shift, I come 15 minutes early. I'm like, hello, how's everything? I kind of check the temperature of the unit, what's happening, because as a supervisor, you have the whole house, right? You have different units. So you have to go around and find out what happened. Is everybody okay? Did you have any emergencies? Anybody unstable? Anybody crashing? Anybody going out? Did anybody have a fall? How is staffing? Okay, so you go around and you're like, hey, how's it going? You touch everybody that you come in contact with, whether it's the um, office person, the way you say, hi, how are you? Hey, Maggie, how is it? Okay. Whether it's the therapist you're encountering down the hall, whether it's somebody from the kitchen, whether it's the environmental services people, you touch everybody. And then you have to exude that positive energy. But with your team members that you work with, your nurses, your CNAs, pretty much, those are the people directly under your supervision. Try to learn a couple of things about them. If they're married, single, do they have kids? Do they have any hobbies? What are they into? You can see what their bag looks like. Then you can get an idea as to, well, they like to golf, or they like to knit, or they're into bowling, or whatever. So you need to know so that when you're talking with that person, is it always going to be about work? No. When you're sitting in the cafeteria, you're having lunch with them. You're not talking about work related. You want to talk about something that's important to them. This is something that we learned when I was doing marketing. On when you go into somebody you want to do business with, you need to find a way to connect. So you look at the pictures on the wall. You look at family pictures. You look at the way they set up their office. That gives you an idea into what they like. So invest in knowing those things. Touch everybody. Like when you're rounding, like I said, you need to ask them, how was your day? Did everything go okay? Did you have, they'll tell you, oh, I had a cold, I had to send somebody out. You know what? It's showing that person that you care. Because you could just come and say, well, how many CNAs do we have? How many nurses do we have? Did anybody call out? Those are good questions, but at the same time, is it personal to that person, to that nurse, to that CNA? And as they're leaving, even the outgoing staff, you need to touch. Okay, that's the one you touch, and then when they come, you know how it is. All the CNAs are gathered at the desk, ready to bitch about who's going to be floated where and who's going to remain and is the assignment fair and all that. So you want to lower the temperature and be really personal. Oh, I kind of like your hair. Oh my goodness, I like that new earring, those new earrings you're wearing. Find a way to connect. They appreciate it. Trust me. Be genuine. You don't want to fake it. Trust me, they'll know. If you're saying, "Oh yeah, she's just trying to be nice because she wants me to go where," or I don't trust her. I don't believe her. Mm-mm, mm-mm. If you're genuine, they will respond to you. It may take a little bit. You may have this, especially if you knew. Oh my God. If you just took a position, make sure you give yourself time. Don't think that they're going to warm up to you right away. Mm-mm. Especially if the person that you're replacing, maybe that was their buddy, maybe they had been there for a long time, maybe they like them, and then you coming, they see you not as the enemy, but more like an imposter, even though you're not. So understanding you need that transition. That's something also I address in the course. When you're new to the position, whether especially if you were a staff member and now you're a supervisor, another layer of resentment. Well, how come you got it and I didn't? All of a sudden, they see you kind of like the enemy. It will depend on how you respond. Okay, if you internalize, oh wow, now they hate me, they're not going to talk to me. Yes, they will. It depends on how you manage it. You just need to understand, give him a little time. You be consistent, you be kind, you be fair. You don't play favorite because now, yeah, we used to be buddies, but now there's a different layer. It's a different relationship. You don't have to say, well, I'm the boss now, therefore. No, you don't need to do that. But it's important that you assert yourself in your position because at the end of the day, you got the position, you asked for it, you got it, now you own it. You own it. Okay? Be genuine. Now, there's another point. I'm holding this phone. Sorry, guys. Uh, there is another point that I added into the course is that how do we integrate the agency staff into our own? Let me tell you, if you don't invest in embracing the agency staff, you're only going to have problems. Remember, you can control that they're there. They need them. And some of them had been working at the facility and left and now are coming back as agency, even though I know some people don't do that, but why not? So your agency people do not know your team. They don't know your staff. They don't know your patients. They don't know your routines. They don't know your protocols. So that's another group of people who are going to be pulling at you, asking for information. What do you do? How do you do this? You're going to have to take time to show them how to enter thing into, point click care, and it's going to take time, but you don't have a choice but to invest your time and energy into integrating them, making them feel part of the team. Because at the end of the day, you need them. If you treat them nicely, And some other staff members may not, resentment, they make more money, blah, blah, blah. I heard that all the time. And they tell you, if you want to make that money, just do what I do. So for you to be upset because I'm making the money, it's just like bull. So I think your team, if they see you as a supervisor, model the fact that I embrace you. I am grateful that you're here to help and take care of our patients. If you display that attitude, when you model a behavior, believe you me, they're going to mirror that. They're going to do the same thing. It's just like your kids, in your home. If you model a behavior, you see your kids internalize those and they start acting like you. That's what kids do. That's what happens in families. And when you are a supervisor, you have a team, believe it or not, you are a family. You are a pack. And you, as the leader, can influence your teammates. Okay? So be genuine. Don't fake it. Be a be a mentor. Okay? They need to feel comfortable coming to you. They need to feel that you are um professionally strong. You got your nursing skills under your belt. That doesn't mean you know everything. Remember, you may be weak at starting IVs, but you have to be able to strategize and take in information and make decisions quickly. Okay? That is a skill of a leader. A leader, you got the responsibility and you need to make those decisions. You can ask someone and say, "What do you think?" But at the end of the day, they're not making the decision. You are. You can get information, but you're responsible. Okay? So they need to come to you if something is going on. If they have any question, if a patient is not looking right, I used to tell my team, before you call 911, you call me. Because remember, sending people to the hospital can reflect badly on the facility because their reimbursement and the higher ups are looking at your rehospitalization rate. That is a quality improvement benchmark. Okay, if your people keep going in and out, that means something is wrong, and they have to evaluate to see what's going on. Maybe it's staffing, maybe it's the level of competency of the staff, and somebody needs to address it. So you, as the supervisor, need to do the assessment and say, "Let me assess this patient. Yes, we're ready to call." And you say, "Okay, you call the doctor, call the family, and then you jump in there and you help." If you have a patient coming with a trach, they may need you to set up the oxygen and the machine. So if you don't know, don't pretend you do. Okay? Make sure you call RT if you're not comfortable, if you've never done it. And you say, this is going to be my first, because the setup in the nursing home is not the same as the hospital, right? So admit when you don't know, if you're not sure. If you're coming from an environment, like I have nurses coming from assisted living and now they're going into subacute, trust me, you're going to need some hand holding. Don't be too proud. It's better to ask and then be sorry later, because again, we have people's lives in our hand. It's not like picking the wrong can of food, at Publix. Mm-mm. Okay, so be a mentor, make round, 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 round. Okay, even though you have a lot of things to do, you do a lot of walking, you need to be visible. They shouldn't be looking for you to say, "Where are you?" I used to always have a little spot where I sat, so they all knew where I sit. So if they needed to bring me something, they knew where to put it. My bag was there, something else was there, so they knew where I sat. If you're sitting in an office, I would suggest you don't stay in that office. You need to be visible and be out there. You need to be rounding. You need to help answer some lights. If you see lights and then the CNAs, where are they? Because that's a big dissatisfier. People waiting too long to get their lights answered. Delegate effectively, and that's going to be something I'm going to expand on in the course. How do you delegate? There is a way to do it. It's a skill. You can't do everything yourself, and I think as you're building a team, you want to recognize people's strength and allow them to grow, allow them to capitalize on those strengths, such as they are. Maybe it's just staffing. And then you can have some leeway as to how you create your staffing in terms of mouth care for the patient, nail care, um, taking them outside. Yeah, you can be creative. Okay. Delegate some other tasks, even for your nurses. Make sure you encourage them, empower them to do more and to do what they know how to do. Okay. Be fair, but yet firm. Now, we're talking about creating a positive environment. Nothing breaks a team spirit more than when they watch, look at her. She did that yesterday. You didn't say anything about it. And then today you're jumping on me because of this. You're not creating a team there because you're playing favorite. Now, if you didn't know something happened, you could say, "Oh, I didn't know that happened. Why didn't somebody tell me?" Right? Don't be afraid to always say, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." You earn respect by saying, "I'm sorry." So make sure you are fair because everybody needs to feel like they are treated the same. Don't play favorite. I say that so many times. Find reasons to celebrate. Oh my God, birthdays, children achievement, a positive comment from a patient or family. And then you do it in public. Let's say you're doing a little huddle and you would say, "Oh, by the way, Mrs. So and so sent a really nice note that Shamika here, she said you took such good care of her mom, blah, blah, blah." You building them up. You praise in public and then you counsel in private. Remember that. If you forgot anything, you want to always bring the positive when somebody else is watching. Maybe you have a board where you're posting the notes, right? Um, we used to have um, it wasn't a suggestion box. It was, I think we call it something else. But if you wanted to say something positive about a peer, we had a way to put it in there, and then we would come up with like these little certificate looking things, and we would, I think we call them applause. We call them applause. How about that? We applaud each other. We applause, applaud each other. Okay, it's built. That's team building. That's team building. Okay. And the other things I used to do, I'm a cook, so I'm always forever bringing snacks or something else. When I work in the CCU in critical care, we work Saturday and Sundays. I was the baker. We always had breakfast every single Saturday. And then I would bring like a bread, a blueberry banana bread, and somebody but orange juice, somebody but something else, and then we ate. It was a given. It was an expectation, and it created a bond among us. And let me give you one little thing. I'm watching the time again. Oh, 5 more minutes. We I was a supervisor at a facility, and I was only there for maybe 2 or 3 months. And then one Saturday, I decided to bring in breakfast. So I bought sausage, bacon, toast. I cooked eggs and everything. And they were like, "Oh my God." Of course, you had more CNAs and nurses. They were so appreciative. Now, fast forward 4 or 5 years. As an NP, I go to different facilities and I see patients. Now people are wearing masks. A lot of the time I can't tell who's who, and I'm really bad with names, but I remember faces. So I would go, I'm passing around. So I'm always asking the nurses, and I'm like, when I go to a hall and I'm like, "Is everybody okay?" Because my job as a psychiatric NP is to make sure that if you have anybody with any kind of behavior issue, I want to address it. Because, I want to make sure that your patients got what they need so that you're not so stressed and they're trying to exit and doing all kinds of things, beating up on the CNAs. That's why when I see those posts when they're like, they have no support, my heart breaks for them because that's my job. So I would go to a nurse and I would say, "Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm psych, and do you have anybody who needs my attention or whatever?" And they're like, "Oh, Miss Maggie, you don't remember me?" And I'm like, "No, I can't tell." And she's like, "When are you gonna cook for us? Remember you cooked us breakfast?" And I'm like, "Way back when." So she'll pull her mask down. I'm like, "Oh my God, how are you?" And then they remember that years later. And it was one act of kindness that, just because I love to do it, right? But you could bring donuts. But I think when you do something personal, it carries a lot more weight in showing that you care about those patients. So find a reason to celebrate, whatever it is. You want to make sure you break the monotony. Whether sometime we had people come to sing, that's the activities department, but I used to work really close with them so that they would have music, and the kids before COVID would come around and sing. They would go have like nail parties and stuff. Try to be creative, and I think if you involve your staff and say, what can we do, somebody is going to come up with something creative. So it can't all come from you. Again, that's part of team building. And I said also set regular festivities, potlucks, birthdays, monthlies. I used to have a monthly lunch at my home care when I was director of nursing. Monthly, we had posts. People would say what they were bringing. They loved it. And again, I had a girl say, "Oh, I miss your cooking. I miss those monthly things, simple things." And that's why people say, you were a good supervisor, because I made a point to do those things that are non-nursing related, right? Um, set regular fix, include activities department in as part of your team, because they're going to make your life a little easier. But don't just use them as babysitting services. I've I've heard those comments before. You always call activities if you have somebody, a demented patient, acting out, and you say, well, why don't you go watch so and so? Oh, that's not quite what they do, but they need encouragement to do more creative things. I mean, bingo is so passe. I'm so over bingo. There's a lot more we can do. Again, you can have a nail party. You could do hand massages. You could do some sitting exercises. You can, bring someone to do something, not just singing. So be creative. Reach out to other departments. When we have potlucks, when I do any kind of potlucks, I made sure the receptionist got a plate. I go to the kitchen and I invite the kitchen staff. I invite the environmental service staff. If they have security, I make sure they're taken care of. So next time you think I need some help, I have no problem reaching out and asking, because I include them as part of the team. Please do that. Smile, smile, smiles. Okay, a smile goes a long way to tell someone everything's okay with the world. Let me give you another example. This one always touches me. I used to work again. I did 7 to 11. I did doubles on Saturdays and Sundays because I was in school, and that schedule worked for me. So I would come in at 6:45, but then the kitchen opens, I think about, not kitchen, the dining room open at about 7 or 7:30 for breakfast. So those little people, they don't have anything to do. They would be lining down the hall in their little wheelchair, waiting for the dining room to open. So when you come to the front, the first big room on the left was the dining room. And I remember this gentleman, I forgot what he had, not MS or something else, but he was in a scooter. He was a large man. And I remember one day I walked in and then I said, "Good morning." And he said, "Oh, you on today?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Why?" He said, "We feel safe when you're here." That really touched me. For a patient to feel that if Maggie's in the building, I'm safe. Because if somebody is wheelchair bound, they feel totally dependent on staff. But if somebody has an issue and I said, "I'm going to get back to you, I'll take care of this," they know I'm going to take care of it. So for someone to say, "We feel safe when you're here," that was a height of compliments. I don't care if somebody were to give me, you know, money, which we can accept anyway, but those feed me. It keeps me going. You want those little things to feed your soul so that you keep doing the work that we do, because it's not easy, as you know. So smile, okay? Whatever is happening at home, smile. Your patients, your residents deserve it. Diffuse and de escalate. That's another point that's going to be discussed. How do you de-escalate? In fact, I just finished writing a whole course for a company about how do you de-escalate. Not just your demented patient, you have people who are in DTs, you have those people who are a little bit addicted to the opioids. You know, those people who are just ready to smack you if they don't get their oxycodone on time. And I had this guy who had set up his watch to um, 15 minutes before it's due, even though it's PRN, so that he's parked himself next to the medication cart to make sure he got his meds. And if you're not there when it's due, he's going to come get you. And if he's 5 minutes late, he raises his cane, right? So you want to diffuse, be proactive as much as you can. If you see somebody, like I've had patients, families come, in a rage or whatever, even though they may be inappropriate, even though you don't deserve the treatment, you have to know how to keep your cool. Because if you go at him and he's going, all bets are off. You don't know what could happen. And there is enough violence happening in our workplaces because we are not trained to know how to de-escalate. I had a patient who got some scissors, were trying to stab another resident, and the nurse was trapped in that corner. So if you're going to de-escalate, make sure you have a clear path to the exit door so you can protect yourself. Okay, you guys, let me tell you, you have to play detective. You have to be smart to do this job. And as a supervisor, you in the thick of it. Okay? Learn how to diffuse and de-escalate situation. Model a caring and inclusive behavior. I think everything I said up front before mentions that. Be sensitive to people's life challenges. Somebody may be going through chemo. Somebody may not have a car and have to grab a bus. So if they're late, don't make a big deal out of it. If you've heard people, if they're sick, people pulling in their PTOs, giving some time off. Somebody said they're going to be late. Somebody wants a day off. Life happens, folks. And a lot of times people are going through so much we don't even know. Okay. So being kind goes a long way in trying to be understanding as well. Demonstrate and encourage balance. That means you want to make sure you encourage your team to take their time off. And don't be the person, oops, sorry. Don't be the person who's going to shame them into not staying over. If you are the kind of manager, supervisor who shows that they care, if you say, oh, we're going to be short, do you think you can stay an extra 4 hours or 2 hours? Chances are, if they can, they will. If they like you, they'll go out of their way to help you. Okay. And that's what we don't have right now. But don't ask somebody to do 6 shifts in a row, 3 doubles back to back. No, you're trying to kill him. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself either. Demonstrate, encourage balance, balancing, vacation, exercise, time off with family. And the last point is involve admin. I think this is one that's going to take time for some people. Not so much a supervisor because you're getting your directive from your DON and you may have to deal with administrator, but I'm feeling too much like a gulf between those two factions. It's like we're not on the same team. And I think we need to spend a lot more time trying to build bridges. What we need to understand is that the administrator and the DON do not make the big decisions. They get directives from corporate or whoever is managing the money. So a lot of time they're under a lot of pressure. So understanding that and not seeing them like the enemy is going to go a long way to making things a little bit easier. I have some ideas as to how long-term care facilities and even hospitals can re-engineer how we deliver care, because with the shortage and people are going to get spooked with all this people going to jail kind of things, they need to find different model of care delivery. They need to think about, like, one thing that I say, how about hiring, I don't know what we call it, but somebody who's just there to cheer people up, Go in the rooms, listen to them, answer some lights, pass water, just listening to grievances. You know what I mean? Because when I go in as an NP and I do psychiatry, when I introduce myself, I don't know you're a psychiatrist. I know you don't. But I make a point to spend a few more minutes with that patient. And I tell him, I said, I know you feel like the staff don't care. It's because they have so much on their plate and they just don't have the time. But that's why I'm here. Let's talk. What is bothering you? Do you have any concern? And many times they tell me things that have nothing to do with what I'm doing as a psychiatrist, but I take it into consideration because if they're upset about their call light and the CNA shoving them too hard, that's going to reflect on how well they recover. So, and their mental health. So that's important to me. Okay. So, okay, I think I'm just about done. And I hope you guys enjoy this. And like I said, I am working on getting this course. It's going to be more concise. It's going to be more, it's going to have a whole lot more that you guys can log on and watch all of it on your own and then you can keep it. And I'm going to give you those PDFs. I'm going to give you the self-assessment. I'm going to give you the grid. And I think there was something else. I think it's going to be 3 PDFs that you guys going to have. And I'm gonna again, let's say next week. I'm gonna go on vacation in May, but I'm still wherever I'm at. I'm gonna go live, and we're gonna address some other topics. In the meantime, if you have anything particularly that you want to discuss, you want me to go over, because like I said, there is just so much. If you're not seasoned like me, there's a lot of things that will stump you that would make you feel intimidated or ill equipped to handle. One thing would be, how do you deal with physicians and nurse practitioners, and some of them with full of attitudes? That's another thing. You have to learn how to deal with that because that could mess up your day and how your relationship with that team. So they're all positive ways of handling things. So I want to thank you guys, Miss Widwid. Hi, and Lynn, I see you back. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, guys. Go enjoy your evening. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bye bye. You did. It's 6 o'clock. Good afternoon. Good evening. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the live. This is Maggie. I am so happy to be here with you this afternoon, this evening. And of course, it is Holy Saturday for those of you who celebrate a very somber time. So